You're listening to Puma Podcast.
Nung lumabas yung Al Jazeera report and pinalabas siya sa ano 'di ba, sa Congress sa House if I remember correctly, si Mig Nograles. Parang Alice was already revealed as a Chinese spy and then, umiirap siya parang may close-up sa kanya na parang umiirap siya na parang nagfru-frustrate siya over the accusations. So, when we looked at TikTok may nakita kaming 12 accounts na halos sabay-sabay silang nagpo-post ng video niya na umiirap siya, frustrated and said na napindot and pare-parehas ng caption na napindot na si anger. Parang si Alice is already flaring up na parang na-fed up na siya dun sa ganitong kind of narrative.
I'm Bella Perez-Rubio, and in this episode of Teka Teka, I'm joined by Nika Hanupol, a journalist at Vera Files who formed part of a team that investigated a small but effective TikTok campaign to soften public perception of suspended Bamban Mayor Alice Guo at the height of her hearings in Congress.
September 28 to 30. So, parang around the time na lumabas din yung, Al Jazeera report. So, here yung basa namin or it seems that the intention here was really to divert people's attention from the factual evidence, presented in Congress and even to a point of trivializing them. Hi, my name is Nika. I'm a journalist from Verifast. So I'm a fact checker by trade, but I also do in-depth and investigative stories on various national issues.
Can you talk a little bit about the story that we're here to discuss today? What is it that you were investigating and what did you uncover?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, our team, so Mon Kaling, El Tarok, and I investigated these 45 TikTok accounts that exhibited signs of coordination to boost Alice Guo's reputation as the best mayor of Bamban, portray her as a cute and pretty politician, and ultimately defend her against the serious criminal allegations being thrown at her in the Congress.
How did you land on TikTok specifically? Is it that's where the discourse around the probe on Alice Guo was loudest, or was there something else that drew you to that platform?
Yeah. Well, I think it's mainly because during the time that we were conceptualizing this story, ang daming TikTok posts that were coming out about her. It's mostly first glance by it's mostly noise. Like it seems like oh there were just a lot of like memes about her, lalo yung parang hindi po ako spy or yung appearances niya sa Congress like talagang pinagpiestahan ng maraming Pilipino. So that was where it started na nag-peak yung interest namin na oh maybe there's something here now we need to look at and analyze and see ano ba yung behavior ng mga accounts that were actually, posting about Alice Go at the time.
You probably remember those viral clips that Nika's describing. You might have even shared them on your own social media accounts. But there was an entirely different conversation around Alice Guo that escaped the vast majority of the public's attention.
So in particular, we looked into over 2,000 TikTok posts published between May and December 2024. So that was when the POGO investigations were at their height in the Senate and the House of Representatives. So what we observed mainly is that these accounts heavily reposted each other, especially content that came to whitewash Alice Goa's image. So they focused more on her looks, her mannerisms, and her antiques. But in other posts, we also saw that they aggregated evidence highlighting her achievements as mayor of Bamban and even responded to a lot of the news that was coming out about her. So they also tended to highlight her achievements in Bamban. Like for example, siya yung nag-build ng unang Jollibee branch in the municipality. She approved this emergency health facility and whatnot.
All of those posts were made by the same 45 TikTok accounts Nika mentioned earlier.
They reposted each other heavily nga on the platform. So, sa kanila lang umiikot yung mga content na yun.
And then the posts themselves, were they garnering a lot of interactions, likes, views, reshares? Or were they like, little known posts on TikTok?
Yeah, I actually, had to look back on our, database. Tapos parang may mga iba na umaabot ng million. So, parang mga 2 million, gano'n. So, very popular kasi very popular naman talaga yung, hashtag na Alice Guo at the time. Tapos may mga iba rin na, konti lang, nasa siguro 1,000 gano'n or minsan umabot lang ng mga 800 gano'n. So, it's a range of, ano talaga, likes and hearts.
And then what kind of reaction did they elicit?
Yeah, well, quite interesting kasi we're also seeing a lot of people yung mga content na gano'n 'di ba, na parang, they would bash her na parang, ano, parang hindi naman 'yan, parang they would bash her and like, point to yung ano, yung investigations and findings. But for these accounts, some of these accounts, yung interactions nila very, I would say, shallow. Like, if that's a term, parang shallow in the sense na parang they focused more on, "We miss you, Mayor. Oo nga, sayang na nawala ka sa Bamban," or "Buti na ay like alam kong mabait ka," or something like that. So very, supportive yung angle nila and, really ano ba, regretful na nawala siya sa Bamban. So yun yung mga nakikita namin ng mga interactions. Pero sa yung mga iba na parang very low nga yung views, hindi sila masyadong nakaka-garner ng comments.
What you're describing gets to the term that you use a lot in your story, which is influence operations. And I think as a fact checker, you're well positioned to help our audience understand what that means. I think you just described it in practice, but maybe something that might be helpful also is for you to compare and contrast that with what audiences might better remember as misinformation, disinformation. How is what you're describing as influence operations similar or different from those two?
Basically, influence operations or IO are like orchestrated efforts to, um, manipulate people's behavior and polarize opinions, by spreading different types of information. Puwede siyang disinformation, so our line of work, fact-checking, disinformation, misinformation. Puwede rin na, propaganda, so talagang mas pinapakita yung positive and like drilling down a specific message or other harmful content. So I always much broader in that sense na it tries to really, manipulate, people's opinions and their behavior toward a specific political issue.
Essentially, influence operations are broader in scope. They have less to do with whether the information being spread is true or false. Influence operations might deploy this information, but their main tool is emotionally charged and benign content that amplifies certain narratives and crowds out scrutiny. The intent is to shape public opinion. The way that you describe the content that you monitored from these 45 users, it doesn't seem like they were specifically spreading pieces of disinformation, like assailing certain parts of the allegations made about Alice Guo, which, for the most part are quite credible and borne out by investigative reports and even cases filed in court.
Yeah, I would say parang to a point then it tries to blur facts. If you put out so many of these types of content, you also, parang somewhat overshadow yung mga, pertinent findings in the investigation.
45 accounts. That doesn't sound like much. But interviews with Bamban residents conducted by Nika's team suggest that their posts may have had an outsized impact on Alice Guo's former constituents.
Yeah, actually, wala kami evidence like how it actually shifted public perception, but we went to Bamban ourselves. So parang we interviewed a few people there, residents na, uh, I think that was election around campaign time, mga around 2 weeks before the ano, the mayoral elections. And interestingly, marami pa ring mga residente talaga na sumusuporta kay Alice kahit na hindi na siya mayor. In fact, merong dalawang parties na tumakbo na pagka-mayor. Tapos ginamit din nila yung "Asenso Garantisado" na tagline niya. Tas one of them actually won. So yun. So nakita mo talaga everywhere, her image is still there. Like um, parang yung remnants nung kanyang pagka-mayor nandun pa rin. Like yung "Asenso Garantisado" nakalagay sa taas ng, um, municipal hall. Tapos, yun parang makikita mo na may suporta pa rin talaga siya kahit papaano sa Bamban kahit na, yun nga, meron ng ganitong POGO investigations.
And would you say that the way people who supported her talked about her was aligned with the way that she was being presented in this particular influence operation?
Actually, yes. It seems that na-reinforce yung certain ideas around her, certain myths around Alice at the time na, "Oh, napatayo naman niya yung Jollibee, eh." Or basta kasi yung Jollibee kasi sa Bamban right beside siya ng municipal hall. People would say na wala naman, very madali siyang lapitan, madali siyang kausapin. Kapag may kailangan ka, puwede kang pumunta sa municipal hall and all that. So, parang na-reinforce yung maraming ideas na yun or yung myth na yun ni Alice Guo sa and lalipat lang din siya sa TikTok.
And those same people who, still supported Alice Guo that you interacted with in Bamban, did you ask them about the actual charges and allegations against her, and what did they have to say about them?
Actually, marami yung mga nakausap na medyo mas on the young side of things and parang yung sinasabi nila is hindi naman po natin alam kung totoo or hindi pa natin sigurado, parang gano'n. So, parang they're still waiting. Yung narrative nga na parang she's innocent before proven guilty. And which is, 'di ba, parang okay, fair naman. Pero parang if you look at the evidence that's piling up in Congress, is a lot of evidence na. So, parang parang makikita mo na yung doubt andun pa din.
That's so interesting because it comes back to what we were talking about kanina of like what sets an influence operation apart from like just disinformation or misinformation. Like they're not really like even the people on the ground. It seems like they're not there to argue the facts.
Yeah.
'Di ba? Parang they're not even saying na hindi fake lahat 'yan or ina-attack siya or whatever. Parang okay, maybe, but this I like her.
Yeah, oh, so what?
Is there anything else that you want people to take away from this investigation into this influence operation in particular?
I think yung main takeaway is that this appears to be a really small influence operations compared to what we've seen in the past and what's been investigated with Bongbong Marcos and Rodrigo Duterte. So, but as one of the experts we spoke with, si Fatima Gao, really pointed out the small scale influence operations. Her term is a la carte influence operations. Na if it worked for a controversial public figure like Alice Guo, it will probably be a template that could be used for other public figures as well. And I think we're seeing that now a little bit in the accounts that we monitor. Yung iba, nag-shift sila and ng name to Kitty Duterte. Actually, so parang that's one angle we're chasing now na parang how are these accounts sort of using this template of let's portray her as a cute, pretty, let's focus on the um yung mga trivial characteristics and not the facts. Itong influence operations na to, it's already a template that has been used in the past and it could still be used in the future. So we have to make sure na alam natin kung paano kumilatis ng information on social media, lalo sa TikTok na very madali siyang mag-blend in dun sa mga trends of the time. It's really about being more mindful and careful of the content that we consume. And we don't just consume one type of content and then not just in one platform.
That's it for today's episode of Teka Teka. I'm Bella Perez-Rubio. This episode was edited by Anthony Tobias. If you were shocked by the extent of Alice Guo's fandom, you might be surprised to learn that it goes even further. Check out our earlier episode covering the emergence of fan fiction inspired by the high-profile investigation led by Senator Risa Hontiveros. It's even weirder than it sounds. We'll leave a link for you in the show notes. Thanks for listening.